Hey guys, welcome in today. Integrative Approaches and Healthier Living. My name is Coach Chris. I am here with Tami Tomlinson. Today we are going to talk about one of the best hacks that you can implement for not only your personal life, but just your relationship with other people in regards to communication. Glad that you guys were able to join us and stay tuned. Welcome back, Tammy.
Welcome back. Another day in paradise.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think hear me all right, right? Or do I
Hmm.
need to go? All right.
Yeah, no,
All
your
right,
audio
good
is
deal.
good today. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the audio's been giving me fits like with the videos, so it's been a bit of a trick for us.
Your audio and my camera. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes.
It's all good.
Well, so what's been going on with your week? What's been popping up on your radar?
Um, uh,
Uh,
keeping
uh,
it
uh,
positive. Keeping it positive. Yeah. We're gonna keep it positive. Just making progress, getting through my to do lists, and checking things off. And yeah, and it feels good to get caught up and
yeah,
stay focused.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Stay focused.
I think on my end, uh, if I'm going to volunteer information, I think a big thing this week has been with, especially with working with clients, has been see here, how would I put it? Using correct terminology. So yeah, I know we had chatted about, a different topic the other day, but this keeps coming up. And I was talking to someone earlier about using words like chaos and um, busy. And what's another good one?
Well, the word that
Just
popped into my head when we first started was discourse. I don't know if that.
discourse. Yes. To describe like events in our life, and like what's going on with it. So I think that was what was kind of like swimming around in my mind today. Um, there's an old proverb, and I'm sure you've probably heard this because, uh, it has its like Christian ties, and I know that you and I both have a little bit of a background there with our
Mhm.
families and such, which is out of the what is it? Out of the fruit of your lips, your life will be satisfied, or something like along those words. Something like that. Like we'll be satisfied by from the fruit of our lips. I think is a good one, and I've heard like Joel Olstein, like in the back, back in time, talk a lot about it. I've in coaching, in my personal coaching and health coaching, I've like really realize the importance of using using our words. We'll say
Mhm.
using our
Mhm.
words.
Mhm.
Before I get on my thoughts on that, I want to hear like
So
a little
what's
bit more of
coming
your thoughts.
well, what comes to mind really is, and I know we've talked about it a little bit before, is communication, right? It's
Yeah,
really,
communication.
I think that's really what it boils down to is proper communication, or just being able to communicate effectively
Right,
with
absolutely.
with people that we interact with on a daily basis, or those that we run into when we're out and about. And I know with some of the people that I speak with, that's a big thing. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
difficult for people to know how to express themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
And then the flip side to that is, I didn't know I was going to go down this path, but then to the flip side to that is, the person that we're communicating with has to be open. Their attention needs to be in that space, in that time,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
listen to what's trying to be communicated to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Active listening. Yeah. Active
Yeah, and
listening. Yeah.
having an open mind for a conversation.
Yeah, that's really, really important. You're so right because so oftentimes people talk with an outcome in mind, already. So that's not a conversation. like teaching or trying to teach somebody or
Right. And I think
trying to
I
lead
think
someone.
yeah, and I think the other thing we do, I know I've been guilty of this, at points in my life, but if there's somebody that we need to have a conversation with, good, bad, or indifferent, mostly
Mhm.
if it's something that's been really bothering us, we then ruminate over the whole entire conversation. Oh, I'm gonna say this
Right.
and she's gonna say that. And then
Right.
you develop this whole thing in your head and then your body, and then you're either very anxious over it, or I mean, it could be even something as simple and as wonderful as a marriage proposal, right? How is she going
Oh,
to
absolutely.
respond? What am I going to do? How is this going to work? And so it doesn't
Right.
necessarily always have to be a bad thing. It can
Yeah.
be a good thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really a good call out. What I took away from what you were just saying, and as as I was thinking about it, is or at least what was coming into my head while you were talking about, and I guess this comes back to one of our favorite things in life is journaling. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe just having a plan in place even whenever you're trying to properly communicate, because for example, like as opposed to, we were talking last time about using your brain not to store problems but to solve problems, and
Right.
building on that, I think I would like to say that when we write down what we want to say and what is we're either happy about, let's say it could be positive light, or what we're sad about or upset about, and we just are clear about that and why we want to communicate it, that in my opinion, I feel like puts us in a much better place to have those conversations, because you're right, we have no idea what the person's going to say, like we have no idea. We're actually having a conversation with ourselves and how our unbuffered self would answer in regards to these things. And this comes again back to our previous conversation, building on that about, well, parenting ourselves and talking to ourselves in a way that is more realistic, truth be told. And that's the whole point of like a conversation and empathy. We don't know what the other person is feeling or why they're, you know, doing certain things, or even if we're happy about like the situation that we're going to discuss with them, like how they're going to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they won't be as happy as we are about, something, and so that can be a whole nother thing. I guess to also build on that, I've been in conversations with people where they were upset after leaving a conversation because they were super excited about something. And this happens a lot. I've seen with significant others where they're just like waiting all day to tell somebody because they're so excited about something. And that other person's like, okay, so what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't know like that outcome, but when you're right. We build on that emotion. It's
Well,
really
and I
cool.
think
I
part of
like
it,
that. I like that thought on your part. I like that thought a lot.
yeah, no, thank you. And I think part of it is too, we have to take into consideration what the other person's day has been like or what's going on in their life, right?
Right,
If it's not somebody within our own household, and it could be somebody in our own house, right? Somebody had a tough day at work, or
right,
somebody cut them off and it irritated them when they were driving.
right,
I mean, it could be any number of things. So, like,
right,
if you had a difficult drive coming home and then the spouse is already there and they're excited to share their happy moment, this person that just walked in the door is frustrated, and
right.
you may not get the response you were hoping or intending. And
Yes, true, true, true.
but I think we also have to try not to take these things personally.
Right. I
And
think to bring it back to context to what we were just talking about,
yeah.
to build off of your point, is that, well, I mean, I think that's another great reason to, and to build on my point too, is to come back to, being clear in
Mhm.
what we want to communicate and why we want to communicate it. And because in those circumstances, again, like we're talking about, we don't know the outcome of that. And so why spend the energy and the thought? and all of these other things in our mind and prepare for either happiness or, I guess, like
Yeah, but I think
disappointment,
it's human
or
nature to do those things, right? I mean, it
it
takes
can be, yeah.
discipline. It takes discipline to not
Yes,
spend all of that
absolutely,
time there.
absolutely. I want to also, since you brought that point up, I think that's an excellent point, and I think that's one of the best things about, I can say enough about like journaling and mindfulness is that one element. One of the things is that one element right there. That's not just something that's unique to journaling and mindfulness. That's also something that's also, I'd like to say, is taught, especially within like Asian, like I want to say religions, but spirituality and faith systems. And
What
that,
are we speaking to specifically? Discipline?
no, speaking of like the whole idea of good and bad,
Okay.
thinking about, events like good and bad, and that's something where, they actually will spend a good deal of meditation time on not approaching situations in their life through the lens of good and bad,
Mhm.
through it, like, say, like being just part of whatever is going on. Coming back to the journaling and mindfulness thing in regards to these things, they also, like, we see like within regards to like journaling and mindfulness, the more and the longer people practice it, it's quite interesting. But there's things like, okay, people are less, this is a really odd one, they're less susceptible in how they respond to discomfort, like things like hot and cold. So things that would ordinarily cause a person like several years ago to experience discomfort in regards to cold, after they've practiced, say, mindfulness, meditation, journaling, and such like that for a long period of time, they don't experience it the same way or at the severity as what they used to, which is really interesting. So now to pick up, to lead to the point where, yes, we don't control the the response. So let's build on that part now, on your part.
Well, I think we have to go into I'm gonna say I'm gonna back up for 2 seconds to the clear communication, I think you said.
Hmm.
I kinda giggled to myself for a moment because then I jumped in my head went to intentions,
Right.
because clear, concise communication is one of the
Yes, yes.
series of intentions that I say
Yes,
to
yes.
myself, so, yeah, on point, and I think I think part of it is we have to be able to express our feelings, right?
Absolutely.
Which also is
Absolutely.
a form of communication. And
Absolutely.
if we, if we don't know how to express what we're feeling, then
Right.
it's hard to have a conversation with somebody about whatever it is that we want to have a conversation about. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I think I think that a lot of people have a difficult time being able to identify, put a word with what they're feeling. And I know we've kind of touched on
Absolutely.
that before, but sad, happy, frustrated, all
Right.
of the different adjectives that we could attach to the word feelings.
How
And
would somebody build the ability to start what we call having emotional intelligence and being able to connect to their emotions?
how
What's a good
would
example?
how would
How
they build?
could how could someone build on their, we'll say, emotional intelligence and start connecting to their emotions with your background in Ayurvedic
Yeah,
practice?
I mean, as if we take journaling off the table,
No,
um,
no, we can keep journaling on the table. Like, that's
well,
perfectly fine.
but I think that's a big part of it, right? We have to be,
Absolutely.
but I think a bigger part too is though we have to be able to go inward, right?
Yeah.
We have to be able to find out what we're feeling, why we're
Right.
feeling it, how
Right.
we're feeling it, and learn to express that. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
easier to express it through journaling, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think too, a different form of journaling with today's, technology is
Right.
talk it out, you know?
Mhm,
Do a
mhm.
voice record. Record yourself and record your thoughts
And
and
listen
your
to it.
feelings. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Play it
absolutely.
back and listen. And then, if it's really impacting one's life, by all means, seek out help. Seek a therapist. Seek somebody, a mental health counselor, somebody who is very qualified to help people navigate their
Yeah,
life's circumstances.
absolutely, absolutely.
And then, of course, yeah, meditation. But if you don't know, I know a lot of people don't, they don't feel like they can, sit and meditate, right? Because I think we
Yeah,
all have
absolutely.
preconceived notions, emotions, notions as to
Notions about meditation.
exactly 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Well, I
until
mean, a good way to circumvent, say, like meditation, if you want to call it that, like we can call it prayer in other terms,
Mhm,
but
absolutely. Absolutely.
an, a good healthy practice is just mindful breathing, just focusing in on one's breath. Like if you're not a spiritual person, if you're not, wanting to connect that dot, but you need something that's going to help you like clear your head and focus and reset, like mindful breathing has definitely been shown to help with that. I don't agree that it can take the place. I'm not saying that it can take the place of those other things, and I know that you and I agree on that. But for the person that's not spiritual or not trying to seek those things out,
True.
it's definitely
True.
a good step.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But you're gonna laugh. Somebody may laugh listening to me say this, but I always struggled really with that whole mind, breath, focus on your breathing concept
Right.
because my breathing is not like the average person,
Yes. Then
right?
you're a
So
very specific person, yeah, in regards to that.
right,
Yes.
but even with people that live with COPD or bronchiectasis or
Right.
any lung situation whatsoever,
Right.
asthma, right? I mean, there's a lot of lung situations and that
Right.
can impact. So for me, I don't like to listen to myself breathe.
Right.
So if I'm in a quiet space and I'm trying to focus on my breath, now all I'm hearing is like Darth Vader.
Well,
And I'm like, ugh.
Tammy, you're going to be very happy to know that the same concepts of mindful breathing work with mindful walking.
Oh
They
yes,
work
yes,
with
yes,
what are those little things that they go back and forth? By the way, therapists used to use this technique for years. That
yes,
those little
yes,
balls,
yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
just pay attention to the sound, and every time
Absolutely.
your mind deviates, try to come back to the
Absolutely.
sound.
Absolutely.
It does the same
Yes.
thing.
Yes. And I think it's very important and valuable for people to know that there's other options and it's
Absolutely.
not just necessarily focusing on your breath. I even
Yeah,
think you
absolutely.
could just sit outside and focus on a tree leaf, you know?
You can. The key thing is like whatever it is like repetitive and like within like a time thing. For example, there's apps on your phone that you can
Mm, yes.
that make like
Metronome.
certain
Metronome.
metronomes. Yes, exactly that. So there's those options too. Yeah, there's those options too.
Yeah.
I am going to ask, can we turn this conversation also towards communication with ourselves?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because I was thinking that's the thing that's been popping up so much on my radar, which is proper communication with ourselves. And I don't necessarily want to dive too deep in this one. We can
Mhm.
definitely get into this more in the future. But speaking of like what I was chatting about at the beginning, which is chaos and using words like chaos and busy and like think words that that generally denote like some sort of lack of control or inability. So the reason I wanted to kind of like chat about this is because people will often use these words in communication with other people and but themselves I think is more literally, and it denotes a lack of control. And my thought on this, or just any negative terminology, especially when we're using it in describing our circumstances, especially when some of those circumstances are well within our ability to manage, as opposed to breaking things down more clearly, like coming back to our initial thing when we're talking about things with other people, taking the time to say, make notes, possibly, or journal these things in regards to our events. Like, what could I manage? What could I control? In defining the event, as opposed to just calling it chaos, or just saying I was busy.
Mhm,
My thought on this is that while it seems simple enough calling an event chaos, and when you call something like, say, like it's chaos, or in regards to this, it doesn't it doesn't consciously click right away, but subconsciously what you're saying is, I did not have the ability to manage this. And that, like, if you haven't put the effort and the time into actually breaking that down, that may not be true, but you're already giving yourself a vote of no confidence with your words. And what does that vote of no confidence do towards the future? It lends you to being in a position where you have lower self-efficacy the next time you approach maybe the same issue, same problem.
mhm.
Thoughts thoughts on that?
One of the things that, that I learned when I was studying in Ayurveda and is very appropriate is, you know, as you've already alluded to, how are we speaking to others? We tend to use a more gentle tongue
Right,
to go back to the scripture, um with others than we do with ourselves. We tend to beat
right,
ourselves down, and
right.
if we're not lifting ourselves up,
Yes.
then we're not creating the space within ourselves, within our being,
Mhm.
to be positive. And when you said busy, I had to kind of like giggle to myself because, I know I've been guilty of saying, "Oh, I've been really busy today."
Yeah, me too, by the way, me too.
But then when you
I'm
think
really
about
trying to break that habit, by the way.
it, but I'm thinking, what kind of went through my head really fast was, because I wanted my attention back on you and what you were saying, but really quickly it was like, oh, what was I busy doing? And I think one task that I'm going to imply this or apply this week is writing down. I'm just going to keep a daily log of where I'm spending my time.
Absolutely. I think that I love what you said there, because that's exactly what I'm talking to. Like, this really came out of a long time ago, by the way. I used to work in human resources a long time ago, because I'm 44. And I mean,
Many many moons
I guess
ago,
I could be
right?
a little older, um, but my supervisor was really, really big on this. Every day he wanted a breakdown of basically what I spent, my time on. The guy was genius, because what he had me do was basically journaling for my job.
Hmm.
He wanted a summary of my day, what I did with it, things that I wish would have went better, things that went well, and like, things that I need to make sure get accomplished the next time I go in. But he set me up for a lot of success, because I can see, like, I adopted that same thing in my business life. And eventually, like, I didn't put the two together, like, at the time when I kind of adopted it more into my personal life, but it made such a huge difference in my life early on. Like, I really, I will say, I peaked very early in life in regards to business, when I lived in Chicago, but I think nowadays, because I structured everything with myself after working with him like that, it made me so much more efficient. It made me so much better at communicating with people what I needed done, like, and what needed to happen. Like, going forward out of the next day and planning and so on and so forth. So yeah, I love like what you said there in regards to like this is what you're going to do because I that's something that I do every day with my coaching and also with photography because we have a lot going on. Literally today I have not stopped since I ended my meditation coffee day planning time. Literally like I've been going, for like 8 hours straight, just like from one thing to the next. And the only time I had a time to like break was for my dinner and the car ride from from my meetings this morning to this point.
So
I
needless
have
to say, you've been busy.
Yeah, but I'm trying to stay away from using words like busy or chaos, very like abstract words because I've seen the impact that it makes like in my life. I've seen the impact that it makes in like other people's lives.
Right. So
Mhm.
reframing it, right? And
Absolutely reframing things
right. So thinking
appropriately.
about the positive spin that you could put on it instead of saying you're
Or
busy.
even the details, putting the details in it. So it's just
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. I mean,
because
so to cut you off, sorry about that.
no, go ahead. I'm happy with being cut off. Agree
We're
with that.
using our vocabulary and communication skills. And
Yes.
you know what? If necessary, look up some words on in a dictionary. I think people still know what a dictionary is, right? Or a thesaurus. They're
Yeah, absolutely.
online. They're online
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
needed, but
To kind of summarize it, because when I look at our entire conversation with talking about communicating with other people, when we're talking about communicating with ourselves,
mhm.
and that's why I kind of wanted to touch on that a bit more because we so went down that road with, talking to other people. And I was like, well, like this is exactly what I wanted to get into, even when we were talking about talking to ourselves and what you were saying, like just with what it encouraged you to do in regards to your time management. Well, what are you spending your time on? As if
Mhm.
you can't say I'm busy and you have to define it well and explain it to somebody, well then you have to take account for it. And I think that's an amazing thing. But it all comes back to, journaling or taking notes and like, writing these things down. And I guess my final point on not using abstract words, especially whenever we're talking about these things, is that, and we've talked about this, and I think this is so important, is that not everything is a failure. Like even when you fail, like you didn't reach the whatever it is that you thought you should reach, but if you define things as a failure, if you define things as chaos, we use general words, then like there's so much that's not being flushed out. Like we're not finding the things that the areas that we could learn
Right,
and
exactly. I was gonna say lessons to be learned, lessons
lessons
learned.
to be learned. And so I think that's like the greatest danger is not being able to move forward as effectively as what we could be because we're just we're being lazy in our definition. We're using abstract words to describe either ourselves, events, things that deserve management and deserve to be flushed out so that what we can find even whenever things don't go the way that we plan, well there was lots of successes. There might have been like some failures too, but with defining like what those things are so we know it works and what doesn't, and
Mhm.
ultimately when you learn you win.
Right, right. Well, even if it's one little nugget of some sort, it's like watching the same movie you've seen before 10 more times.
Yeah,
You're
and you pick up
always
that one
going to
little thing
see.
each time.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say on that it's never just one nugget. There's like
Oh, yeah.
usually
Oh, yeah. For sure, for
so
sure.
many good things in there when we take the time to like really like flush these things out.
Yeah.
And coming back to the initial thing, or like I think the premise of this is back to journaling,
Mhm.
back to taking
Mhm.
time to make detailed notes, plan,
Mhm.
use
Be
our
specific.
words
Be
appropriately and be
specific.
specific.
Yes. Yes.
And Yeah, I think that's really where we're at because, like, even with our what we're talking about with people, we were talking about, well, not planning for, in our head, especially not planning for the the expectation or the response.
Preconceived,
The
preconceived.
preconceived expectation. Yes, I love that preconceived expectation response. Just focusing on proper communication, the details, things that you want to communicate,
Mhm.
um, for success, even in our interpersonal relationships. Yes,
Yes.
good, love it, good
Super
stuff.
cool. Me too. Great
Very good,
conversation. Great chat
absolutely.
today.
Great chat. Yes, I agree. I really enjoyed this, and I thought this was good. And I know I was like thinking about this beforehand. I'm like, I know Tammy loves communication. So am I
Yes.
wrong?
Yes. No, you are not wrong. I even have books I could share on my bookshelf behind me about communication, effective
You
communication,
can
and
throw them in the we'll throw them
mhm,
in the description below, right?
absolutely. Yes, for sure.
Very good.
Ones that I were introduced to in my Ayurvedic training. So yes, it's
Very
very
good.
important. Proper
Well,
communication. Very good.
that's it for today then.
Absolutely. It's been a
All
pleasure,
right.
as always.
Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in. Integrative Approaches and Healthier Living. Much love to you all.
Like, share, subscribe if you like.